Welcome to Coffee with Kay, where we're going to make sure the coffee is always served strong, but it's also going to come with a side of truth, and that's truth with a capital T. The truth of God, that is. I'm here to equip and encourage you, Saint. Yep, that's right, you. And if you're not familiar with the sainthood, I want to teach you what it is, and I want to invite you to the family. So, let's get right into it.
Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days. The weekend comes, my cycle hums, ready to race for you. Monday, happy days. Tuesday, happy days. Monday, happy days. Tuesday, happy days.
Hey guys, welcome back to Coffee with Kay. I'm so excited. So sorry that there's been so much space in between these episodes. As you've already seen, season 3 is all about motherhood, and that's my excuse, motherhood. I've been busy just doing the mom thing, and that's okay. There is grace, but let me say, I'm so glad to be back on. I've really missed recording. I love doing this podcast, and I've been super excited about the season. So we're jumping back in strong, and I have a super special guest today. This is Gibwa. If you guys follow me on Instagram, I have frequently talked about my weight loss journey this past year since having baby number 3. And it took me a long time to be able to even just get to the beginning point to get to exercise again. And also when I'm pregnant, I usually share about some fantastic online resources that I use specifically on YouTube. And Gibwa is one of my favorite prenatal, postnatal, non-natal exercising YouTubes. Her handle is called Belly Strong Mama, and I've been getting to exercise through her videos for probably the past 2 years. Definitely the third baby, and I think even postpartum with my second baby, Maya. I really can't remember. It's all kind of muddling in. So Gibwa is here on Coffee with Kay today, and we're going to get to talk about motherhood as it pertains to fitness and wellness and health, because I think it is so important. It's always been a huge passion of mine. If you may or may not remember, I studied exercise wellness in college. That was what my bachelor's degree is in. Don't use it anymore. Used to be a swim coach, not a coach anymore. Totally okay. But fitness is a huge part of my life, and I think it's super important and just a really great way to expand your motherhood journey, prolong your motherhood journey, and just dig into yourself as a person, as a mom, whether or not you've been an athlete before or like it's your first time becoming an athlete, exercising. Maybe that wasn't really part of your life growing up, but now you want it to be. And so I'm just really hoping that this episode can open that door for you and just give you that freedom to partake in a huge part of what can be a great experience in your life. So without further ado, I would like to introduce y'all to Gibwa. Hey there.
Hi.
Welcome to Coffee with Kay.
Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, I know the name is a bit weird and it's not spelt how it says. So it's Gibwa, it's like a J instead of a G.
Oh, what did I say?
Gibwa.
I sure Gibwa.
I get so
that.
many different pronunciations. I'm just like, I know what you're saying. But
that is the story of my life. I get that all the time with my name, which is why I just go by Kay as my pen name and on Instagram, because it's always the funniest stories, the most interesting things. The most popular one is people who are like, it's Kyrie, like Kyrie Irving, like the basketball player. And I'm like,
no.
Yes, because my parents named me after a basketball player who is the same age as me. Come on. No.
That makes sense. That makes
sense. No, like, Kyrie Irving and I are like the same age, right? Okay. Yeah, no. So I totally relate to that. I'm so sorry.
Gibwa. Right.
Got it. I want to make sure I say your name right. I love it. I think it's so pretty and it's so cool. I think anything that is so different from us, usually, maybe not for everybody, I perceive it as cool. Sometimes I know things that are different from you can be very uncomfortable, but I think everything different from you is just so beautiful. So
depends how different, I guess. But
that's true. That is very true. Some things are, I'm sure, as you said you've lived in Japan.
Mhm.
I've been recently reading an Amy Carmichael or a biography. I don't know if you've ever heard of her. She was a missionary
Mhm.
in India, but she started out her missions in Japan. In her book,
Oh
this was in
wow,
like the
yeah.
late 1800s, and
Oh
she's
wow,
talking
yeah.
about like the different foods they eat and how she just could never get over the food. Like she tried so hard, but she was like, I just can't do it. And so she would bed with her tea and her cookies because she was from Ireland, and
Yeah.
she would have her tea and biscuits in bed so she wouldn't like offend the locals because she was so hungry.
Oh, shame.
So sometimes different, I guess, isn't always the most glamorous, but nonetheless. Oh, I would love to hear more about how you started. So getting back on track with fitness, this all has to
Yep.
do with fitness.
Well,
I
oh, carry on. Sorry. Yeah.
Oh, no, you're fine. I would love to hear more about like how you started your YouTube. Like I would love to just know your story.
Well, okay, where are we now? So this is going back, what, 3 years? So I was in Japan at the time. I'd been there doing my master's, and my husband had a tour company there, or has a tour company there. And what, March 2020, this was the beginning of the pandemic, and everything just ground to a halt overnight. So I just finished my master's. I was helping my husband out with his company, and everything was going really well. And then it all just kind of stopped.
Mm.
And I mean, we didn't know when it would end. And I was like, what am I going to do? I mean, I'm in this country. My Japanese is basic at most. So I can't really get a decent job. There's no tourism, and my husband's trying to find some other stuff to do. So I need to find something to do, and he's the one who actually encouraged me to start a YouTube channel. And I was like, okay, maybe I should do a podcast, but then what would I talk about? So I really had to think about, what are the skills that I have? What can I offer that provides value to people? And I was like, oh, hey, I mean, I got pregnant around that same time as well. And I was like, I'm a physio. I work out, I exercise. I can't really find anything on the internet, at least for free, that's a comprehensive pregnancy workout routine that's designed by someone, who knows about this stuff intimately. And I was like, I can do that. So after the first trimester, because that was an absolute write off, I was just throwing up all the time.
Oh,
Um, I started filming, and we'd spend weekends, 1 or 2 days every weekend, just filming videos and trying to make sure that I was at the stage of pregnancy that I was filming the video for. Um, and it grew from there, I guess. Yeah, as soon as she was born, I moved on to the postpartum stuff because I think recovery is really important and there's not a lot of guidance around that.
mm.
And it's really just evolved with my own journey as a mom. Then trying to get fit after the recovery stage and try to get some semblance of a fit body back.
Yes.
So, yeah, in
That's
a
so
nutshell.
cool. I love that. Yeah, I love that because you don't necessarily get to know, not saying this is a bad thing, like the background story of your YouTuber
Yeah.
sometimes. And so for, somebody on the other end, it's like, oh, this is great. This is great. And then I was like, I want to know more about this person. Like, who are you? What do you do? How'd you learn this? Because I was just so impressed. I still am so impressed with your videos. Like, they were just so clear and concise and like consistent. And something for me, like, I like
Mm,
I like workout videos, but then there's
mm.
some of them where it's like, this is not.
This was not what I
This
was
is not.
expecting.
I don't think this is your forte. you know, there's some of
Hmm.
them out there that are like, this is not.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be high quality, but where it's just like kind of confusing or like kind
Yeah.
of blurry or mergles or jumbled up, and yours are
Yeah.
not like that. And I really enjoyed that. And then getting to find you on Instagram and just kind of like getting to see you like interacting with your family.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
I just think it's so cool. I love that.
Yeah. And I probably have
So,
my husband to thank for that because he's very into cameras. So he made sure that we had all the equipment so we could film at
oh,
least a decent quality of video. But I mean, talking about the level, it was difficult to pitch because there are so many different levels of fitness. Like I know some women will do these workouts and they're like, this is too slow for me. If they're really fit, and then others are like, that was really, really hard.
yeah.
So it's always difficult finding the balance, but hopefully I've hit a balance that most women will enjoy.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, from my perspective, I've always been an athlete, like since I was a little girl.
Mm.
My first baby, I think I was lap swimming until I was like 33 weeks pregnant and my swimsuit couldn't fit anymore. And I was jogging until I was like 28 weeks pregnant or something crazy like that.
Wow. Yeah.
Granted, I was like 22 my first baby. And
Mm.
so my body was just in a completely different place. You know, it's your first
Yeah.
baby. Usually your muscles are like a lot tighter still. Your uterus has never done this before. Like
Mhm.
you honestly snap back like a rubber band. Those first babies they're just marvelous. And yeah, those first trimesters are like, and for me at least, they're impossible. I get so,
Yeah.
so sick until like at least 20 weeks.
Yeah.
And so my second baby, I think that's when after I had her in 2019, and I
Mm.
think that's when I found your videos. And she also was kind of like I was able to snap back. I had those two more back to back.
Yeah.
Um, so that pregnancy was also a lot more active. I was really, really morning sick, but I was
Mm.
still able to be a lot more active. I didn't gain nearly as much weight, so it wasn't like as hard on my joints to exercise and stuff.
Yeah.
Third baby, oh no. Oh no. I was like, "What happened?" Like, I think everything in me just broke, and I remember with that pregnancy, doing the workouts, like, in our room on YouTube and doing your workouts, and I was like, "That that was hard." I don't remember them ever being this hard. And so, it's just crazy you say that because even, for one person
Mhm.
3 different pregnancy experiences, my
Yeah.
athletic capabilities have been literally all over the place.
Yeah.
Where something that was easy for me, my first pregnancy was like I was, like, out of breath, needing my inhaler, like, my 3rd time around. And so I love that too because I think especially doing prenatal or postnatal exercises, you have this expectation of your own body
Mhm.
that like I can be capable of what if you like you said if you've been used to working out, you have this higher capacity that you're used to like
Yeah.
meeting, and then all of a sudden you might not meet that, and it's kind of
Yep.
like, am I doing something wrong? And like you said, there's not necessarily a ton of those types of videos online. Like prenatal exercising is not a very popular thing to do,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
And so being able to see somebody else interacting in a physical way while pregnant, I think is so encouraging because it kind of showed me like everybody's bodies are already different to begin with,
Mhm.
but then you add pregnancy into that, and the game is just thrown out the window,
It really is.
Like, there's not really, like, a comparison scale. Like, you just get to show up and do what you can as best as you can,
Yep.
and I think your videos really help you to be able to, meet yourself where you're at instead of trying to, like, do exactly what they're doing on the video and seeing like, well, this person looks so fit or whatever. Like they're
Yeah.
just that expectation for me when I get to watch your YouTubes totally goes out the window.
Oh,
Which
that's
is
good
one of
to
the reasons
hear.
why, yeah, I just really love the way you do your videos. Like, yeah, I don't know.
Thanks.
Sometimes because there's some that I watch and I'm like, you literally got abs over your belly. Like,
Yeah.
we're not on the same level
We're
right
not.
now.
Yep.
I cannot do this.
Nope. Nope.
My
Nope.
leg
Nope.
doesn't go up right now. Like, it just got to stay down here underneath hip level. So I'm gonna move on to the next video. I don't feel like.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
the expectation, that's like a big thing because I grew up dancing. That's always been my thing, as many different forms as possible, and I've always been quite fit. Um, and recovery took me a lot longer than I thought it would after childbirth. And it took me so long to be able to jump without any pelvic pain. I was like, I just can't get up there. I jump and nothing
right.
happens. I don't have the power. And it took me a
Yes.
while of really working on it to get back to that point. And even then, I don't think I've gotten back to where I was before
Same.
pregnancy.
I know, and it's kind of like it makes me think of like mental therapy, where it's like you process things, and your
Mhm.
therapist is like, you might not ever be the person you were before,
Yeah.
and that's how I feel about pregnancy and the fitness journey.
Mhm.
It's like you might not be that person you were before, and
Yeah.
and that's okay. Like that
Yeah.
is normal, and it's good, and it's okay. And I
Yeah.
feel like we don't get to say that enough to moms. And I've been
Mm.
noticing that I've been sharing that. So like, and we've kind of gotten to talk about it briefly on Instagram. My weight loss journey. So with my third baby, oh my, I gained like 65, 70 pounds. I stopped counting. Um, so contextually, if you're a fitness guru out there and you know the body mass index, all this stuff, you might enjoy this. So do the math. I am 5'4", and pre-pregnancy I'm about like 135 to 140s. That's been high for me. Like before being a mom, I like lived in the 120s, and that was just what my body did. And that's, doing moderate exercise 3 to 5 times a week. Nothing crazy. Wasn't like, dieting, nothing crazy. That wasn't meal planning. That's just what my body did naturally. So my first two pregnancies, I think I gained like 45 pounds, and I lost the weight probably 3 to 4 months postpartum. Um, and it's not like I was exercising, again, dieting, doing anything crazy. Like I was just eating normal, breastfeeding,
Mm.
and it probably would take me about 2 months to be able to even go on a walk without, again, having that crazy pelvic floor pain, let alone like doing any exercise. And so third baby comes around, and not only am I like over 200 pounds by the time I give birth,
Mm.
and let me tell you, I felt like I could barely walk. Like I was so
Yeah.
heavy. It hurt so bad. And then, maybe like 6 weeks postpartum, I'm waiting for that rubber band to snap. And I look down and I'm like,
It's not
well, this is
snapping.
odd. what happened? Uh, this is not the norm. And
Yeah.
and it turns out like I was having just a lot of stress in my life. My hormones were super off this baby, and my body was just changing. And I
Mm.
was doing pelvic floor therapy the whole time I was pregnant and postpartum because I was having a ton of hip pain and back pain. Turns out I had an old sports injury that never was rehabbed, and it was causing like a lot of inner ligament pain,
Mm.
specifically in my right hip, like in my inner rotator cuff in my hip. And it was just like so specific, so agonizing that like doing anything beyond stretching was like I could barely do a glute bridge, right? Like,
Mm.
I started from under baseline. Um, and it's taken me literally a year to work up to being able to even do like a Peloton exercise,
Yeah.
or doing CrossFit. Like we started CrossFit, and it's been so hard and so humbling. But something that I've just been sharing online is like I have to remind myself that this is normal. Like this is what happens
Yep.
when you have children, and I think especially in American culture, like that is unheard of,
Yeah.
let alone broadcasted to the masses.
Mhm.
Because what we see and what we're told is like you can or you will look like XYZ with children. And sometimes it's just not realistic.
Yep.
And we have to not only have that, like, let that expectation go, but have so much grace for ourselves to like embrace our new bodies, because it is a new body, but it's a good body still. It's just
Mm-hmm.
different. And like we
Yeah.
said earlier, like different can be cool. Like you have to
Yeah.
just you just have to change that mindset. Sometimes it's not
Yeah.
cool because sometimes it's
Yep.
really painful and uncomfortable and, not what you're accustomed to, but it can still be something you learn to embrace and love and
Yeah.
just get to know in a different way. Um,
Yeah, you learn to love the new normal. I think I talk to a lot of women in clinics who, they're what, 4 months, 6 months after having a baby, and they're like, I've got this back pain. I'm in so much pain. And I'm like, you're only 6 months postpartum. Like it takes, it took 9 months to grow a baby. It's going to take at least that, if not more, to return to some level of normal. And I think societal expectations of, just bouncing back, which are kind of shoved, well, maybe not shoved down our throats, but that's the unspoken expectation. And it really doesn't happen like that in real
right,
life. And it takes often concerted effort to really build strength back up to get back to a place where, things are moving and loading normally. And then, that's not even talking about all the pelvic issues, which, we're often
right.
embarrassed to talk about. And,
Mhm.
you know, yeah,
Wait,
there's a lot of change.
wait. I love everything you just said in that whole sentence. So there's like three things I want to break down. First, you mentioned clinics. So when you say that, do you mean is that like your job, or do you do fitness classes outside of YouTube?
So I'm a physiotherapist, so I see, people, a whole range of people for just assessment and treatment for various conditions. And I'm actually starting my own pelvic service next month.
Get
And that will
out.
be pelvic physiotherapy, dealing with urinary incontinence and pelvic floor issues, because I think that's such an underserved um, sector.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. I didn't
Thank
realize you were
you.
a physical therapist. So I would say physical therapist, that's what we call it in the US. So
Yeah.
I'm assuming therapist in the UK
Yep.
equivalent. That
Mhm.
is so cool. My husband was an occupational therapist by trade before
Okay.
the pandemic, and then he changed careers.
Yeah.
And then I studied, yeah, health science,
Mm,
specifically exercise science and wellness. I wanted to be a corporate wellness instructor. I
mhm.
used to want to like own a gym, and I used to be a physical fitness instructor and a personal trainer, and I used to have a swim lesson business, so for kids and adults, and so that's kind of my background. So we have a
Yeah.
ton of overlap. Totally geeking out. Like I love this stuff. And yeah, just learning too about pelvic floor therapy. It was only a year ago that I even learned that was a thing.
Mhm.
Um, which to me was like, man, like why don't OBs tell you about this?
Yeah, because
Like
women
why
are
didn't
giving
my
birth
doctor
all the
tell
time.
me this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Literally. I was like, I've been hobbling in pain for years. I think it was my after my first when I got pregnant with my second that I started having really bad hip pain. Um, and I was like, I guess it's just me being pregnant. And it
Yeah.
totally wasn't. Like I had
No.
nerve damage.
Mhm.
I had scar tissue. For women that tear, I tore my
Yeah.
first two births. So I mean everything healed, which is great, but they don't tell you you have to exercise that scar tissue. You have to break
Yep.
down that scar tissue, because if you don't, well, your ligaments can attach to the scar tissue and adhere, and you won't be able to walk. Come on, like
Surprise.
why didn't you tell me that?
Yeah.
And especially thinking about for a woman who might be like me as a younger mom, why would you know that when you're 22? You
Yeah,
wouldn't know
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
And so it's like you're the professional. Please just why wouldn't you tell that? And so I love that you're getting to start your own practice. That is just so cool.
It's
Because
really exciting.
being able to, yeah, having been on the receiving end of that therapy and being able to like give testimony of this is where I was last year, even before I had my third baby. even before I gained all this weight, and I was still in immense pain. I still hadn't healed properly, and I didn't know why. Compared to now, where, yeah, I'm now a year postpartum, I still have another 20-ish pounds to lose, like my goal to get back to a healthy
Mm.
BMI like window where I feel the most comfortable and where my medical team feels the most comfortable for me. But my pain is significantly diminished
Yeah, that's
because of
really
all the
great.
strength and, yeah, body work that
Yeah.
I've put in. But it's taken a year.
Yeah.
It's taken a long time and a
Yep.
lot of work and a lot of exercises I don't want to do and a lot of stretching and moving and manipulating that has not been fun. But like,
Yep.
it's possible. Hey, listener, I just wanted to pause really quick and tell you about something slightly insignificant, but in my view, it's pretty awesome. The Our Place Pan. Now, this season is all about motherhood, and maybe one of your main tasks as a mother in your home is doing the cooking. Yes, I would like to say I am the cook in the house. With that said, every cook needs a good pan, and I chose the Our Place Pan. It's non-coating, non-toxic, one of the better, safer options for your family. And did I mention how beautiful it is? Check out my show notes. In it, you'll find the affiliate link to go shop an Our Place Pan. There may or may not be a little discount for you. You'll just have to go see. Thanks again for listening. So that is so cool. And then another question I had for you is, I'm curious, in the UK, do you feel like there is that like unspoken or spoken, what is the word I'm looking for, assumption about like snapping back? Like, is that kind of common UK culture too, or what would you say?
I feel like it's a global thing, at least
Oh yeah.
in Western countries. I mean, that's what I can
Okay.
speak to, having.
Yeah.
Maybe let's not talk about Japan because I don't think they speak about those things at all. But
Really?
in Western cultures, yeah, I feel like that's just the assumption. And it's not. I don't think it's said. So it's never said. I feel like GPs, will tell you things take time, or 6 weeks. I feel like this is probably quite, you know, widely spoken. 6 weeks, pelvic
Oh,
check at
right.
6 weeks. Okay, cleared for sex, cleared for, anything. You can get back to everything that you were doing before. And I'm like,
Right.
no, no, not at 6 weeks. You're not
No.
ready.
No, isn't that so interesting? I was just talking to a friend about that who just had a baby, and I mean, luckily she feels great and she feels healed.
Yeah.
And it was like she was kind of the first friend I've talked to about that topic since I've even had a baby. But I it just kind of like in that moment I had a little flashback of being 6 weeks postpartum this third time, and I was like,
Don't
don't
do it.
think about it, don't touch me, don't look at me. I mean, because it was a whole different story where I was like,
Yeah.
I'm taking it slow.
Yeah.
I feel like it was the first baby where I was like, give me the first 40 days, like give me
Yeah.
all the warm soups and the porridges and the stews and a hot tea. Like I'm trying to do this thing right.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, it just really hit me. I don't know why that I for the first time kind of looked at myself and my friends, and I'm like, none of us wear 00. Like, I don't know a friend that wears a size 2 or a size 0. Like, we are
Yeah.
all normally, I'll say normally built. Like, I think
Yeah.
the average, I think statistically speaking, I read the average woman is a size like 12.
Yeah.
Um and I've never I'm only now just wearing a size 12. I've always worn maybe like a size 6 to 8 when I
Yeah.
was younger, and I feel like I've grown and developed, a more voluptuous body the older I've gotten, where I'm
Mhm.
starting to fit into that statistic. And now I'm looking and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I think it's like when you're a teenager, you look like that
Yep.
because you're a teenager." Or, we went to a family camp this summer, and the counselors were early college students. And I looked at
Mm.
myself and I looked at them and I looked at myself and I looked at my husband and I was like, did I used to look like that? I was like, how old are they? And he's like, they're probably like 21. I was like, oh, oh,
Uh-huh.
because I'm 10 years older now. Like, oh, my body has changed. And
Yep.
I've had children. Like, I'm so stupid. Like, my stomach is not gonna look like that.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Like, and I just felt like it was. I don't know if you've ever seen the Freaky Friday movie with Lindsay
Yep.
Lohan. Oh, and Jamie Lee Curtis is doing the interview, and she's on the talk show, and she's like, "Oh, like senile, like old people. Oh, okay, okay. Like I'm tracking with you now." And
It's like,
that
I
was
get
that
it.
moment I had this
Yeah.
summer where I was like, "Oh, like this is the mom bod. Like
Yeah.
this
And
is
it's okay. It's
okay,
normal.
this is great. Like why did you just tell me that before?" I, I could have handled that, versus like
Yeah.
finding out 2 minutes before
Mhm.
that, by the way, once this person comes out into the world, you might never look the same, and it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just let me know. Just tell me that ahead of time. So that's super unique that you say that, and I totally appreciate your context or your perspective because just from what we've gotten to talk about already, like you definitely seem to be more traveled than I. I've definitely got to be around the states and experience different cultures within the states, but from like a global perspective, I don't have that, and so I appreciate getting to learn that because that definitely gives some context, I think, to the conversation and to like the mindsets and the information that people like that we are receiving,
Mhm.
that other women like us or who are also getting to find your YouTube videos or find us on Instagram, just like the mindsets we're working with where we
Yeah.
can expand on that and like learn something new today, uh,
Mhm.
and so that is just super special to me, so thank you for sharing some of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned in your postpartum journey that recovery was like really challenging for you. Um, would you be interested in just kind of like sharing a little bit more about that experience? Did you ever have like a similar experience of having gone into pregnancy at like a different athletic capability and then coming out of your pregnancy into your postpartum journey feeling like this is not the body I'm used to or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think, so I expected to, so I remember giving birth and immediately afterwards feeling like I just couldn't support myself. I have no core. It was like just this empty feeling. I was like, and the first time I walked upstairs a few days afterwards, my legs were sore. I was like, what? I just walked up the stairs.
Oh,
And at that point, I was still very keen on making sure I was doing postpartum videos in line with my own recovery. And I was like, okay, gotta get filming immediately. And I probably did a bit too much at once, not in terms of the workouts, but, setting up for things. I'd be moving tables around and I'd kind of walk with my equipment to the place where we filmed. And I probably shouldn't have done that. But it was so simple that I thought I would have been capable.
mhm.
Yeah, I guess my stomach definitely doesn't look the same. It's a bit looser. I still have, an abdominal separation that's probably not going to go back to how it was, and just a lot of extra skin. Um, yeah, so I'm not unhappy with my body. It's just different to how it was before, and I definitely don't feel like just have the power that I had before. But then also that's probably a time thing. I mean, working full time and then looking after a toddler, now I just find I don't have the time to work out like I used to.
Right. Yes, that's a lot of change. And so thank
Yeah.
you for sharing because that can be so vulnerable to share. So thank you so much for getting just to share a little bit kind of behind the scenes. Again, like seeing that veil behind somebody that you watch their videos and just getting to know, like, there's probably more to the story,
Mm.
and, like, not having this assumption. Not that I'm saying I've ever assumed stuff about you, because I just have never known. As I've just always been
Yeah.
so curious, which is why we're here. Where, okay, if you're listening and you resonate with Gibwa, you're not the only one.
Yeah.
You're not. And I totally resonate with that too. Like, I luckily I don't have any diastasis rectus, so if you've never heard of that, that term is the name, like the technical term for separation of the abdominal wall. So, like, right, you grow your big belly, your uterus is underneath your abdomen, your abs in your core, right? So it's going to expand those abs, and then when you have the baby, right, your abs have to come back in, and sometimes there is a separation. So if you've never heard of that term, but you feel like you might have something like that, definitely bring it up to your OB and
Mhm.
get some help. A pelvic floor therapist is fantastic for strengthening that core back and helping to close that separation if you have any of that. So just like a little plug right there. I'm
And
sure
also,
you,
just on that, it
yeah,
is not abnormal for it to not go back to how it was before. So, probably after childbirth, 2 fingers, I think 1 to 2 fingers is normal. Whereas before pregnancy, I was one, I'm probably now two. I don't think I'll ever get back to one. As long as you can control, you can control form and you can load properly, it is okay if it doesn't go back to how it was before, as long as
yes,
we're addressing the loading mechanics around it. So don't
right,
worry if, it's 2 fingers, we can strengthen it up still and you
yes.
can be okay.
Thank you for adding that. Yeah, and so I just love that you say that, because that was something I never knew. I think
Mm,
probably until my second baby, and even being an exercise major, I think I had one class. It was called Special Populations, where you learn about pregnancy and training, or like somebody with um, heart issues and training them, or somebody with, Parkinson's,
yeah.
just very specific special populations. And we spent, what, an hour and 20 minutes talking about pregnant women out
Yeah.
of my 4-year college career.
Yeah.
What a disservice,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And even when you're doing the personal training manual and learning how to assess risk for people you train, where automatically if you're pregnant you're high risk and you're not supposed to
Mm.
train somebody who's pregnant. And it's, again, it's like, how outdated is that science?
Yeah, extremely outdated.
Or, yeah, 6 weeks postpartum, if they've reached that, they're lower risk and you can train them. Again, like, no. No. Go home and chill out. Like, you just had a baby. And so, even medically speaking, I think some of the data, like some of the information we receive, is so outdated and unhelpful. Um, where, yeah, it's taken me 3 times around to be waiting for my stomach to go back to the way it used to be, and I'm finally like, oh, okay, like, that's not realistic. Like, that's not
Yeah.
how bodies work. And
Yeah.
that's okay. That's okay. That's like, it's fine, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and yes, I also appreciate you sharing just how easy it feels to like overdo it after having a baby. I think that's always the biggest like mind game for me, is
Mhm.
where, like, I feel like I have noodle arms and noodle
Yeah.
legs. Or even like holding your baby is like, this is so
Yeah.
heavy. What's
Yeah.
wrong with me? But just the more that I've gotten to interact with pelvic floor therapists and, like pro metabolic like nutritionists, and kind of just having like a whole body, like whole mind perspective, whole food perspective of how much energy it takes to
Yeah.
grow a baby. And then, like you said, working and raising a family and taking care of yourself and
Yeah,
enjoying
there's
your husband. That is
yeah.
a lot of energy.
Yeah. And often we let hour, we let the attention that we need to focus on us lapse. We're like, okay, something has to give. Okay, I just won't think about myself. Like,
Mhm.
think about the work and the family and everything else going on around, but we don't often prioritize ourselves as
Yes.
women. And I think that's, I mean, especially with, pregnancy and childbirth and recovery, it's really important to do, because if you don't prioritize yourself now, or, soon after childbirth, problems snowball, or they can get worse
Mhm.
over time. And I see women in their 50s, and, they've said, yeah, I've had back pain for the last 30 years since I had my kid. I just kind of deal with it. I'm like, no, there are things you can do. You don't,
Yeah.
it's not normal. You don't have to be in pain for the rest of your life.
100%.
Yeah.
Do you feel like exercise is one of the things you do for yourself that kind of like, you know, not to bring, not say it's to bring you back to baseline, but just like making you feel like yourself, something that is enjoyable for you?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That's
I've
good.
always enjoyed being active, so it makes me feel more like me.
Same here. I love that. I definitely do too, which is why it's like, yeah, just so refreshing. And it was so freeing to find your YouTube where I could just feel like I had that piece of old me back again, where even though I'm not necessarily working at a level that I used to, like I'm still getting to participate in something that I've
Mm,
always enjoyed getting to do.
yeah.
And so that's super special and that's super sweet. And I definitely agree that um, it's so good to take care of yourself, even if
Yeah.
maybe you're not like fitness gurus like us, where that's not like you totally get, maxed out and
Mm,
energized getting the exercise. But even just thinking that I kind of the long game. The
yeah.
more work I put in now, that's the more time that I get to have, Lord willing, in the future, because I'm healthy, because I'm not suffering from back pain or pelvis pain or abdominal pain, because like you're putting in the work now,
Mm.
physically and mentally. So, are there any things that um, I guess you wish people would know about your YouTube or about motherhood and exercise and fitness?
There's probably quite a lot. I mean, the main things I would say is that, exercise is incredibly beneficial during pregnancy. It's not something you have to stay away from. You can do core work and abdominal work safely during pregnancy. Again, not something you have to stay away from. And the stronger you keep that core unit, the less likely you are to develop, pelvic pain, back pain, or complications or pain after pregnancy. When you get your checkup at 6 weeks, that doesn't mean you're ready to start running. It can take up to a year to really recover, and I've tried to pace my videos accordingly. And I do have running is, I mean, it's a completely different topic on its own, but return to impact can often take even longer. And there are some very really specific guidelines that have recently come out in the past few years about exactly what you should be able to do before you start running pre-pregnant, postpartum. And I actually have a whole different course for that on my website. But yeah, there's a lot. It's okay for things to happen slowly. It's normal for things to happen slowly. Um, yeah, you're just not alone. I feel like, yeah, there's a lot to say, but probably
Mhm.
those are the most important
Yeah.
tidbits.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that. And I just think it's just so freeing. So if you're listening, I really hope that this episode has just been a blessing to you. It's been a blessing to me. Again, I'm like, this is so cool. I'm getting to watch somebody again. I don't know why it's just like this in my mind, but seeing somebody on YouTube, like on my screen, in my headphones, having like a real one-on-one conversation. I just thrive on real life interactions. So this has just been a huge blessing to me. And I think our listeners on Coffee with Kate are really going to embrace this with open arms, because the chats that I've gotten to have in my direct messages on Instagram have really reiterated and like touched on a lot of the things that we've said
Mm.
that we've personally experienced. And just the more that I've opened up my mind to accept where I am right now in this moment in my motherhood and fitness journey with my body, where I'm like, things could be worse. They really could. Um, and but that then gives me a baseline like things get to be better. Like I
Yeah.
get to get better. And not that getting better means looking trimmer, like getting better as in my comfort, my capabilities, my physical abilities. Because I guess sometimes you just don't realize how able you are until those abilities are gone. Um,
Yeah.
and like how much of a blessing it is. And the trade, where it's like, yes, this has been hard. Yes, this has changed me. I would not trade my children for the world, though. Like,
No.
I wouldn't, it just gives you like a whole different perspective, which is parenthood to a T. It changes your entire life. And so this is just like a tiny little facet of that. But the allegories and the symbolism it carries are just extraordinary. If you let them be that to you. So where can our listeners find you off of this podcast?
Well, I mean, obviously YouTube, which is Belly Strong Fitness. My website is bellystrong.com, and that also has a few other resources for during pregnancy and also a postpartum return to running program. And then Instagram, Belly Strong Mom. I'm terrible with social media, so I don't post very often. I'll try to get better at it, but you can find me at those 3 places.
Man, awesome. Well, her information is also going to be in these podcast notes. When you see the description of this episode, I always include their social media, their website, where you can find them, where you can reach out. Her YouTube also will be in the show notes, guys. So you'll be able to find her and partake in her wonderful exercise program. I'm telling you, I really love it. I wouldn't, I would never lie to y'all. And I may not, have the guns to prove it, but that doesn't mean that I'm not doing the core work to prove it. So, and you just can't see that. And that's, oh well. So thank you so much for your time today. Like,
Oh,
I've just
thank
really
you.
enjoyed our conversation. This has been so cool. And I really hope that you guys receive this well and that this can be an encouragement to you in your parenthood journey. So until next time, thanks for coming to Coffee with Kay.
Gray sky, hello blue. There's nothing can hold me when I hold you. Goodbye, gray sky, hello blue. There's nothing can hold me. There's nothing can hold me. Goodbye, gray sky, hello blue. There's nothing can hold me when I hold you. Goodbye, gray sky, hello blue.